Welcome to More Than Legal, the show where we go behind the scenes to uncover the fine print of power, purpose, and profit. I'm your host, attorney Danielle Laughlin. After almost 2 decades in the trenches of courtrooms and boardrooms, I have learned that every move leaves a mark and every deal tells a story. What will we uncover today? Let's find out. Hey, real quick, before we dive into the episode, remember, nothing you hear on this podcast is intended to be legal, financial, or tax advice. I invite you to contact any of the guests you hear by looking in the show notes for their contact information, or if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find my contact information at daniellelaughlin.com. All right, now let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to More Than Legal. I'm your host, Danielle Laughlin, and I'm really excited to introduce you to Randy Davidson. Randy is no stranger to the entertainment industry, and I have gotten to know him over the last couple of years as our firm has shifted practice focus toward more of the entertainment space based on my personal passion and what we see to be a big need. As there's a lot of transition in this industry. I know Randy is going to touch on that with us today. But Randy, why don't you just share a little bit about who you are? You are, of course, the founder and CEO of Georgia Entertainment, as well as Georgia Insider. And I'll let you tell the audience about those two organizations and what they do.
Well, thank you, Danielle. First, I got to tell your audience that when I first met Danielle, there was this woman that was so happy and bubbly and gave me her background, and there was an attractiveness, a curiosity about what she was up to, and then over time, it became like really clear. And I tell you, she's just really treasured right now for the industry, the way that she has weaved in. So I'm just so happy to know you, Danielle, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
We're a media company, Georgia Entertainment is, and we've been around for 10 years. And as many know about Georgia has really thrived over the last 15 years, especially, because of film primarily, but that investment and that focus from a policy perspective with incentives and things like that was like the perfect timing for like what was really happening with our young people and with their desires to want to work and be in the creative space and to even use their creative brain, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, more so than people of my generation were able to do in even mundane industries like banking and, lawyering and doctoring and things like that. And so, from a business perspective, I always tell folks, we're not the TMZ. We're not looking for the stars at the Starbucks and all that. We're really covering the entertainment industry from a business and economic development and workforce development, jobs perspective. And we initially started really with doing a lot of events locally. And so one of our mottos is rally locally, recruit globally. And locally, that means that we go not just in Atlanta, but all over the state. We've had big events in Valdosta, Macon, and Warner Robins, Savannah, Augusta, and then of course, definitely Atlanta. And then a few years ago, the recruit globally came where we had some partners that said, hey, we need to go out and tell our own story. And we need to go be meeting these storytellers and these producers and financiers. We need to go where they are. And we started going to Sundance, and we went to TIFF. We went to Cannes, and we go to South by Southwest. And those are our 4 that we do around. And in fact, Danielle, we can chat a little bit about our experiences on that recruit globally front, as we had a great time at South by Southwest. And then we have a printed annual journal that we do that we sort of use as our calling card at local events here in Georgia, where we emboss the names of the legislators on their copies and share it with them. So we're very intentional about making sure our policymakers are making sure that policy is aligned with the creative industries. And then we take those journals on the road to make sure that it's a beautiful piece designed by SCAD Pro students. So our future workforce, it's got a great story inside of it. So that's what Georgia Entertainment is as a media company. And just briefly, because Georgia Insider is is launching this summer as a private community, that's servicing the real movers and shakers and the folks that really want to elevate their network to a different level. So think of Georgia Entertainment as a media company, and the people participating as readers, event goers, people that want to get branded. Think of Georgia Insider as the codified community of that, where you're doing even more so, but you become a part of the community for curated and invite only environments around very specific topics.
I love it because it really is kind of acknowledging the reality of where we find ourselves just generally in business these days. And I appreciate everything you said, because when I first approached you, I very much was coming in as an outsider, and you were so warm and welcoming and inviting. And I think sometimes folks have a perception of the entertainment industry, especially just historically, a lot of what we've seen in the past has been hyper focused on LA, also a little bit with New York, of course, very much kind of a gatekeeping situation. And some of that is for good reason, of course, when you're dealing with celebrities and big directors and producers, there is some need to create space, I think. And I think what I found just honestly welcoming, I think, about you and Georgia Entertainment generally was your curiosity as to you were very and rightfully, I don't want to say skeptical, but you didn't just say, oh, hey, welcome. You really wanted to know what our motives were. And I think that's really important, because Georgia Entertainment and you and your partner, Jeslyn, you've become kind of the faces of the entertainment industry here in this state. And you have a lot of responsibility to make sure that the people you invite in are there for the right reasons. So I want to just put that out there too, because I think that's really critical. And what you're doing now with Georgia Insider is really great, because we know that those in-person events are really the future of business growth and opportunity. But again, what happens behind the scenes and in between those events is really important to make sure that those relationships come to fruition. So I am so excited about that, and to really be a part of it. And I thank you for including us in that.
Well, I'm glad you see that, Danielle, because it's not something that we really talk about too openly. Is that, early on, especially on the money side, and I'd love to. There's a lot of things you and I can chat about a lot. Maybe we can do a part 2 and 3 down the road, but especially in the entertainment space and really the innovation in tech space, is really where all of that is converging and colliding. But early on, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding about this industry, and there was a lot of original money that was in Georgia that really kind of got sideways, with the industry, just for lack of education. And so we have been very intentional about making sure that we don't put our brand with someone that has just, in your case, as a law firm, that just stood up an area of your website called entertainment. And it's as hollow as if it wasn't even there, which is what used to happen. Everybody's like, well, I'm a caterer, or I'm an accountant, and I'm gonna land grab, and I'm gonna do this. And it's much more than that, because what I've come to understand is there's a DNA in this industry of, like, these people have the passion in their heart to create and to weave that into their business. It won't take long, and if we're aligned with somebody that is not, and we have been at times, obviously, it's not good for us. So we try to be very careful, and it is an industry. I always kid people, this industry, I've had other businesses in the past, but there's no other more loyal business than this entertainment thing. Like, I kid Jez and I said, if we could open up a gas station and put it in the middle of Atlanta and say, we're serving entertainment professionals only, people would drive all over the state to come support us. I don't know what we would be selling in there, but that would be the case.
No, I think you're spot on. And as you know, I kind of came into this industry as an artist, right? I had gone back to improv over COVID and reignited a passion. I mean, if I'm honest with you, Randy, I forgot I used to do short films in high school. I mean, we were producing all kinds of stuff. I was Martha Hewer in one of them. We did like the Bhagavad Gita. We did The Chosen, which has now actually been put to the silver screen. So I did a ton of short film production as a kid. And I was on stages my whole life, but I kind of went with the left brain side of myself. I've always been a big nerd. And so I went with my left brain. And during COVID, there was enough space to let my right brain free. And so when I saw the similarities of what's needed in the entertainment space, and then what we do for our clients just generally in business, I was like, wow, I had no idea. I always thought it was like, oh, the stars, they need their lawyers to get their money. And, I didn't get it, honestly. And so it's been a privilege for me the last couple of years to learn more about the industry from the inside. You guys do an excellent job with your events. You really highlight the local talent here. You help people showcase what they do and how they can help. And I think it brings that camaraderie and loyalty that you said, because it can be dog eat dog, and it can feel like maybe there's nobody in your corner sometimes, especially if you're up and coming, or you're like some of the folks who've never left the state, right? They stayed here despite that all the opportunities were somewhere else. And so you really give a voice. And I think
thank you.
Yeah, that's what people love so much about what you guys are doing. So tell me, kind of, you've alluded to where you were before doing this, but tell us a little bit about how this came about and where you saw opportunity to serve this community.
So since Al Gore invented the internet, I'll start with that. Back in in 2000, I've had businesses along the lines of what you see with Georgia Entertainment. And thankfully they're all still in business, and I've sold them, and they're all around community. And this was the year 2000, and when the internet was coming out. Well, it's funny. I can do this in this format because we're not too limited on time. But I was in the printing and publishing industry, Danielle, and I don't even know if I've told you this, but I decided to start a Georgia Entertainment for the printing and publishing industry. Think of it that way. And it was called whattheythink.com. So think about that for a minute. That name was available because whattheythink.com is a big name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a survey political company would love to have it. We used to get offers all the time. Like, why is your name whattheythink.com? Well, it was because we were trying to find, we wanted a publication that would be about what print buyers think, about their when they purchase printing. And so to this day, it's still the name of the company. It's 26 years old. It's the Wall Street Journal of that industry worldwide still. And it's daily, it's got a newsletter and there's events and things like that. So I'm real proud of it. But what was really funny is that it didn't have a printed component, and it was online only, covering the printing industry.
That's awesome.
Today it does have a printed piece as well, but then several years later, about 10 years later, I launched a business called Georgia CEO, which is a group of hyper local publications throughout the state of Georgia. So Savannah CEO, Middle Georgia CEO, Augusta CEO, Metro Atlanta CEO. Within each of those, if you go to savannahceo.com right now, today, there's daily business news, there's videos with business owners, and there's some state news, that impacts Savannahans. But And that was launched because many of the newspapers stopped having a business section. So I just said, hey, we're not going to stand for that. We're going to do hyper-local business. We're going to talk to people that had never been talked to before because they haven't been involved in a scandal. So they have no footprint in Google, because they've never committed a crime. But they're geniuses like Danielle, and we got to talk to them and find out things. So that, and then I sold that in 2020. But let's wind back just a minute to 2015, 2016. Someone from Savannah and a dear friend in Atlanta were readers of the respective CEO publications. And Craig Miller, who passed away last year, a dear father in the industry for me, called me to his office and said, no one's covering this entertainment industry, this film industry. It's huge in Georgia. You should do something. You guys come in and out of it in your Georgia CEO, the Atlanta Business Chronicle that comes in and out, the AJC. Somebody needs to dedicate themselves to it. So he could have said, Danielle, nobody's covering spoons and Georgia's spoon industry is about to explode. I would have launched Georgia Spoon News. That was where my brain was. I mean, it was totally opportunistic. Then life happened, which is another podcast. And my daughters are creative and sorry, I get emotional sometimes, Danielle, when I talk about the transition. But a lot of people get to be in their lane for long periods of time, but it took me a long time to find it, and I did find it in this. And boy, what a life to be working for something and involved in something. If you're not looking forward to going to sleep at night and looking forward to waking up, something needs to get adjusted. And that's my story. And now I'm in my lane and that's how it all got started. And now for me, the next chapter, as you chatted about, is really Georgia Insider and from a macro level, all of these young folks where it's been okay to be creative, if they're entering the workforce, that's the innovation economy. Like when I was a kid, like marching band and acting, oh, that's cute, Randy, over there. Right. But don't you get too serious about it because there ain't no jobs. There's no jobs there.
Right.
Today, those kids exercising those brains early, the right side of their brain, the creative part of their brain, and having opportunities. That's what I'm passionate about, is them being able to stay in Georgia, not be stigmatized, not over their art and creativity, in here, right in the stack of the mutual fund of this state, right beside ag, right beside fintech. It's serious, and we need to take it serious.
Well, you got me crying too over here. And only because, first of all, your heart, we share that. We have, our hearts are on our sleeve. I think we knew that about each other immediately. But also our children all three of our teenagers have been in marching band. Our daughter was the lead actress in high school. She just graduated. She's questioning whether to stay in film and theater because she's thinking about how to make money. And I'm trying to encourage her. And I'm like, you can do it. I think it's so important because, even going back to what you just said, we get trained to be opportunistic. We get trained to find a way to make money, and we have to make money. Like we absolutely need money to survive. There's no question about that. But when you can find a place where your heart and your profit motive can align, it's like the magic. Like you said, you go to sleep excited, you wake up excited. It's not like the days are any easier. It's just your mindset is better. You don't feel like the world is crashing. You feel like the world is emerging.
Yes.
That's what I get from you. That's how I feel. I love being in these rooms. I just had Alex Lugo on. We just published his episode. And he did the same thing, the left brain. Be an engineer, do the thing, he's brilliant. And now he is living that right brain reality. And I think that there's just a big shift that's happening because now everybody's a creator. The barriers to entry in terms of getting stories out is coming down. And I just am so excited because I think that when you have the heart and you also have the business experience and acumen, you can be part of that change and helping the future generations align those two things and not go through what we had to go through, which is checking off the boxes just to pay the bills and dying inside because you really weren't happy and fulfilled. And so I feel everything you're saying. I know our audience feels that way too, because I always get compliments on these moments,
Yeah.
people are craving authenticity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are just a really bright light. So I appreciate you sharing that background.
You've done this in the brief period that you've been involved with us. I have literally watched you go long on this. Like, I'm long on this too, and I'm optimistic. I'm all in. Like, it's not going to change overnight. I know I'm on the right side of history, though.
Exactly.
Those people that have fought for other things, not to get into politics and things like that, but they knew they were right. And even the people that were wrong knew they were wrong, and those folks were probably going to be right. We're on the right side of history here. And our kids one day, and I want, my legacy to be that I woke up and
Yes.
understood and was able to make a difference. Today, I was chatting earlier, I've got to leave at 12:45 because I have to go across the country to Kennesaw from where I'm at, but I'm doing my second annual sharing with Kennesaw students, in the film school coming after. We just got back from Cannes, and being able to share with them like what that was like to go over there and to talk about Georgia and how we had standing room only, how we had a standby list for folks wanting to come hear this message. And you've seen the energy, Danielle, that's in these rooms, and they're there. There's a lot of events and things for them to go to. We've recruited these people to come, and I am so excited about being able to share. Last year, out of the 30 or 40 kids last year, I'm still talking to 3 of them. And I even tell them that too. I'm like, look, some of you all don't get it right now, but there's going to be 2 or 3 of you all that are going to be volunteers at our events. Your LinkedIn profile is going to be filled out in about a week or 2.
Yeah.
I said, but there's going to be 27 of you that won't. I just go ahead and say that, but
it's true.
But I want them, even the ones that don't do it then, though, I want them to to hear that message, and I want them to know, because these young kids, they get doubt, like your kids. I'm sure they doubt, like, is this the right thing? Do I need to be doing this? Man, I hate that I'm so creative and I want to find. No, you can do it. You can find your lane and live it. It's not always going to happen in a year or 2, but be true.
Play the long game. Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And I have so many great relationships now, thanks to you and the organization that you've built and the events. I connected my oldest son with Julian and Rod at Community because he's into fashion and finance. I'm like, great. We need finance and fashion. It's a critical part.
I loved when you say that, Danielle, because I love people that track those environments, because I know people that we've introduced folks to, and some people I will be sitting right in front of them sometimes, Danielle, and it's not that I want to get patted on the back, but it is something that I want. I'm a tracker too. Like, where did I know that person? But they'll be sitting right in front of me. Like, I can't remember why we're doing business or with that person. And I'm like, well, I introduced you to your, what I'm saying. But it is all about connections. And you mentioned earlier, like, the authenticity. And that was one of the things that sort of turned my light on. As you know, Georgia Insider was going to be an innovation technology media publication, but really what what it really turned into quickly was like, no, it's all converging, business and creativity is going right into every other business. And with AI and everything, the physical engagement and interaction and the authenticity, whoever can bring that in, AI will never kill that.
Never.
And just like it can't create the ideas that your kids are creating and that my kids are creating. That is the unique DNA that is going to sustain society.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that, there's, like you said, being on the right side of history, because innovation and technology has been part of the human experience since the first time we had a rock that we used to, make things, right? And I think that we can look at AI as a big, scary boogeyman, or we can look at AI as a tool, just like all other technology. And you can't replace humanity. I mean, there's a lot of kind of naysayers out there. They're really talking about the worst case scenario. And it's like, yeah, but what about the best case scenario? If the human mind could be unlocked to focus on its ingenuity, like we only use like a small percentage of our brain to begin with. What if this will allow us to use more of that? Right? Like, can you imagine? I mean, like, that's what I'm excited about.
No, I am too. And think about this, Danielle, like, and I'm a believer, in God, like, God, there's a plan, for how things go. But I often think of my father, who's 87, like now, this last 15 years of these young people coming through up in the creativity. But can you imagine that, like, if AI would have landed during my father's generation or whatever, where they would be all flipping out. But like, me and you and our young child, like, it's time to be optimistic.
Absolutely.
It is so much opportunity for us to live life even fuller.
More fully.
Yeah.
Travel, right? Now it takes hours and hours to get to Europe. What if we can get to Europe in 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, that is exciting. And those technologies are possible because we can use AI and some of the support technologies. And I think that's even with film. I mean, Alex talked about this, human centric on his, Film Pro AI, and just, hey, listen, we're not trying to replace human creativity. We're trying to take the really crappy, slow pre-production process where you got to go through the script line for line and find every prop. And if you miss a prop, you might miss a whole day of production. And if you miss a whole day of production, that's tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the scale of the project, down the drain.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a certain set deck, or there wasn't a prop available, or whatever it was. And so I've been going through that kind of filmmaking process and the tedium, and it just opened my eyes to how much goes into it. Legal, how much of the legal work sucks the soul out of good lawyers. Right. And we don't want to do that. That's not what we want to be using our time for. So if there's a tool that can take away some of that, that's just really not where we should be spending our time. It makes it cheaper, it makes it faster, and it brings more joy to the craftsmen and craftswomen that are actually in those industries, making that a reality. So I agree with you so much that this is such an amazing time to be alive. I'm excited about it. I'm also interested because we've talked a little bit around it, but I'm sure that you've had opportunities that have shown up for you and George Entertainment that may not really align with what we're talking about here today, and really what I consider to be ethical leadership. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Have you had anything where it looked great on paper, but it was maybe going to detract from the mission?
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to my higher power, God, is like, I have had a palm, I call it a palm on my head, that has just led me around, because I have, it's a land, life can be a landmine, full of landmines that you're trying to avoid and everything. And you just trust and you go forward, and I have been faced with some very, you talk about ethical situations. There's the known ethical things that you confront, and then there's the unknown ethical things that you have to be able to back out of once you're in. And on the first, there's definitely been opportunities for us to be involved in events or companies, and just see the money or see the opportunity first, and we had to back away, and we did. And I'm telling you, Danielle, to back away from some things from people is a very difficult decision, but there's no better reward than to know that you were right, and the gut instinct, and that you see something. You don't wish bad for anyone,
No.
but you see whatever the situation is with that, and you're like, wow, I made the right decision. You can never go wrong with making the right ethical decision in the moment. You can always, it may delay something for you, but it's not something that you're going to regret, And then on the other side, I'll tell you that we've actually gone into some situations that turned out, to be unethical as well, or have some ethics problems.
Right.
And boy, the skill set to navigate out of those has been, is a different set of challenges. And I would say, that you need professional service providers like yourself around you, because if you're a real business and you're really pressing forward, not only in entertainment or whatever, you're going to need friends to help you make those decisions. I tell you that it is being amongst a group of wise people, and I know you've got some wise people around you, Danielle.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm around you and you're around me too. I
Yeah.
know I can call on you, but it takes that to get encouragement and to get the advice needed to be able to not enter relationships that are unethical. And then when you do get into a situation that you uncover that is not on the up and up, how to get out of it without collateral damage to your brand and your family, or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point. I think you're the very first person who's actually brought up the idea of inadvertently getting into something and then navigating. I mean, it's scary when you get into that situation, because your brain starts, questioning all your decisions, and how did I end up in this place? What did I miss? And as a leader, I brought my team along with me. I championed this thing, and it can be very lonely in that situation to try to figure out, how do I make this right? And again, like you said, I don't need to make somebody else wrong. I don't need to wish ill upon somebody else. There's a wide range of ethically permissible behavior in the world of business. And so, I talk a lot about ethics, but I don't judge people when their ethics don't align with mine.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to be part of that. And so
Right.
I think that's really what you're saying is sometimes you think you're aligned with somebody, you're not. And figuring out a way to leave that relationship without burning a bridge and without making them wrong or becoming some self-righteous, like, I know what's better, and that's delicate. So I just appreciate that you brought that up, because I think it's really the first time that we've even touched on that on this show. And it really, you said when it happens, that's the truth. It will happen. There's
Absolutely.
And none of us are perfect. So
yeah.
Especially
too, Danielle, I'll say, the proof of when it happens is if you have any employees whatsoever, because you are going to get in situations where that's I know your context is more business angles and things of that nature too, but the way folks can think about it is unwinding out of employee or contractor relationships that are significant. And I've learned to always start with letting them know that we might not be right. We're going to high five if it is, but let's try it out and let's go. Because I want everybody that's working for me, and my team, Danielle, like the people that eventually make it up and show up in person at our events, they're pretty aligned with me by then, by the time they're making their way. And you have a great team too. But if they were not, I'm the first person to high five them on out the door and be a reference for them, because everybody deserves to want to go to sleep and wake up every morning as excited as I am.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm telling them. And so if we're not feeling that here, for sure, I think that's something definitely one of the more valuable lessons I've learned in my career.
It's the sign of a great leader, Randy. Honestly, it really is. We have
gray hair too.
I put a little color on mine, It's so true though, and we have a core value. We believe in freedom, and so when we bring people in, it's like we believe in the freedom for you to not like it and walk away, and for us to do the same, because life is way too short to be in relationships that don't make you happy and don't contribute to your well-being. Yeah. So I think it's a maturity issue with leadership to find that, to not want to try to control people into what you think is the thing. But it's also a sign of maturity on the other side for people to realize that while you're out here hustling to try to get, you really need to be also looking at receiving, because when you go into an employment relationship with an employer, whether it's a W-2 or a contractor, it is a relationship. And even if you're not the power player in that relationship, you want alignment. And so I love that you help get them to a new place, right? How can I help you succeed? And cheering for them. And we've had people leave our firm that are flourishing. I love to see it. It's like, if you could just be a spot on their journey towards getting them to where they need to be, like, what a privilege, Yeah. So I just love that about you. And I've enjoyed this so much, Randy. We will do more conversations because we have a lot we could talk about. There is just so much, especially in this industry right now. So we'd love to have you back on today and some other day. And good luck out there in Kennesaw. We love the kids up there. Do you have any parting words for leaders that may be listening today that you feel like might help them along their journey of just living out their values in their work?
Well, I've been on the phone this morning, and I will be next week with people that are way more successful. If your scoreboard is money, and that's not the scoreboard,
right?
And that's what I've learned. It's a scoreboard that others use, but if you're stuck in that would be my advice, is that is so not relevant for the breath that I'm taking today and for the sleep tonight. It's not going to make a difference. And once you remove that pressure from yourself, life is way better, and your family will start feeling it. Your employees will start feeling it. They don't think that you don't care or anything. They just think that there's something that's more tangible now of why I'm going to work hard for you, or why I'm going to serve you, or or how I'm going to contribute to this overall mission. So that's something that I've been dealing with, because that money thing, Danielle, is all over. What cars they driving, and what's how much you make it, if you got that jet yet, and we get that too. I know it might be over for a minute, but like, just people seeing us at Cannes and stuff. I don't care, but I know there's a slither of people that see, hey, the industry's struggling, evolving, and everything. That don't have anything to do with me, as an example. And I'm saying, like, but I could dwell on that, and it could paralyze me a little bit, but that's not my scoreboard. Our
And
scoreboard is making a difference.
making a difference and playing a long game, because the cycles of business are going to continue to go up and down.
That's
You
right.
know, I mean, when I came into practicing law, it was 2011. There were no jobs. I had done law review. I had done everything I was supposed to do, top of the class, all the things. And I got a job for $40,000 a year as a single mom. I was so devastated with that. But I had a choice. You know, I could dwell on that and I could victimize myself, or I could take the opportunity in front of me and I could turn it into something positive. And that's what we have to choose to do, even when we're in a momentary down cycle. This is not going to stay like this. This is and gratefully, right? If you have been diligent with some of your resources, yeah, you might lose some money. You may be maybe stitching some things together for a period of time. And we're all struggling in business sometimes, you know, making that payroll, getting that contract paid and things like that. But when you rally people for that positive change, that becomes secondary and you can just get through that tough part. So I know that your team is so grateful to have you in this really tumultuous period of time, to be a beacon of light. It's not easy, and every day is going to be good or bad, depending on the noise out there. But if you have that inner peace with God, like, that's the number one thing. And I'm just so grateful for your sharing today. I love you, Randy. You're such an
I
awesome.
love you, Danielle. Thank you so much. Invite me back. I would love to. I got questions I want to ask you. I want to interview
Okay.
you. We're gonna do a special edition where I interview you.
Okay. I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love that. Thank you, Randy. We'll get all your socials and everything about Georgia Entertainment. But is there anything specific you want folks to do to find you?
GeorgiaEntertainment.com and GeorgiaInsider.com, especially if you're really interested in the innovation, if you're interested in innovation, tech, and entertainment. And if you're interested in hearing more about us, Georgia being the creative, cultural, and entertainment capital of the world, then that's where you'll find it.
Awesome. Awesome. Couldn't agree more. Thanks,
Thank
Randy.
you.
We'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the show. Remember, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.